After returning to Queen's with Yrsa, I had to talk to my mother. But first, Yrsa needed a place to stay. I told her I would get her a room and then come back after speaking with my mother. We walked to the Lion's Mane Inn and I got her a room. I helped her get her things to the room, and when we got in, she turned and looked at me. Yrsa said, "There's something I have to talk to you about. Go talk with your mother and meet me back here." I promised I would be back soon and wondered what it could be that Yrsa wanted to talk to me about. My mother and father's house didn't lay far from the Lion's Mane Inn, so it only took a few minutes to get there. I knocked on the door before entering. She stood up as I entered and smiled when she saw me. "Helga, my son, I'm so glad you're back." We sat down and I told her about the journey and about Hallas and Yrsa's brother Helgi. I told her about the mine, but didn't mention the torn off limbs on the corpses. I didn't really know if father had been in the mine, but I told her that we had found traces of both Yrsa's mother and dad. She listened and didn't say much, but I could see she was happy that I was back, and she said she knew that I had done what I could. I told her that we would follow the lead Helgi had found in the mine, but we had to wait for him here in Queen's for a few days. She looked a little worried when I told her we would go after the gnolls. But she quickly replied, "Grandfather wants to talk to you before you leave." "Please do that," she said. I just nodded. Before I left, she went upstairs and came down and gave me 40 gold pieces. I didn't want to accept them, but I did anyway. On my way back to the Lion's Mane Inn, I was thinking about the 40 gold pieces mother had given me. I had a small saving in the bank from the mackerel fishing, around 15 flat. I had planned to go get some money to pay for Yrsa's room, but I didn't have to do that now, so I went directly to the Lion's Mane Inn. As I walked in, the lady standing at the entrance called me. She told me Yrsa had gone to the harbor and had told her to tell me to meet her there. I said thanks and turned around and walked out. The harbor was just around the corner, and I immediately spotted Yrsa on the pier. Someone was standing there talking to her, but she left as I arrived. First I sat behind her and just said "Hello." She quickly said, "Come sit here," and pointed in front of her. She looked around and then started talking. "Helga, there is something you have to know." But then she paused and looked down. She started again. "It's about my brother." She paused again and looked me straight to my eyes. "You have to promise on your mother's life that you will not tell anyone about this." I looked her in her eyes and said, "I promise, Ursa, on my mother's life and on my own." She said, "You know those people who have special abilities? My brother are one of them." And she paused again. And I said, "Yes, yes, I know," and mentioned my brother that was a wizard apprentice in High Hole Keep. She looked at me a little surprised and said, "Yes, like that." But my brother is one of the few specially powerful and gifted. And she told me about their father and how his power almost had driven him mad. Only her mother had saved him back then. Helgi had started training in an early age, and they soon knew he had the same powers as his father, but even stronger. It had scared her mother, and she pleaded her father to stop training him. But shortly after, her father disappeared. But Helgi didn't stop training. He was taken into a secret society of very gifted youth. He left Hellas for more than 2 years, and when he returned, something had clearly happened. He never spoke about it, and he started drinking and fighting in the arena. I think he somehow got expelled from the secret society, but he refused to tell me about it. I started training myself secretly and knew I had some of the same powers, but on a much lower level. And my mother wouldn't allow me to do even basic shaman training, fearing I would have the same powers as my brother and father. I replied, "We also have a monk and a paladin guild here in Queenos," but I knew that's not what she was talking about. We sat talking for a while about other things. She was very easy to talk to, and I told her I would show her Queenos in the morning. It was a cold night, and we agreed to get some sleep and meet the next day. I followed her to the Lion's Mane Inn, and we said good night. She smiled kindly at me, and I smiled back. When I walked home, I thought about what Lisa had said. Grandfather always told me and my brother stories about secret societies and heroes on adventures in distant lands. Oh yeah, I remembered. Mother told me to talk with grandfather. I would do that first thing in the morning. Early next morning, I went directly to the baker to see my grandfather. I'm sure he just wanted to be sure that we had delivered the horse back and that he wanted his armor. My grandmother, as always, said, "Are you hungry, Helga? Try these fresh-baked vegetable pie," and smiled. Grandfather looked at me and said, come with me. I need to talk to you. He pointed at the door. I followed him out, and we started walking toward the house. On the way, he said, "Tell me about your journey, Helge." I told him about the journey to Hellas, and about Helge, and the fighting in the mine. But I didn't tell him anything about the mutilated corpses in the mine, or about the things Yrsa had told me. I just said Yrsa's brother, Helge, had returned to Hellas and would meet us here in a few days. He listened carefully without saying a word, but when I had finished telling, he started asking questions. "Where are you going when Helge arrives? Is it only you three? And how many gnolls had we fought? And did we all fight them?" I answered that I didn't really know where, and that we had fought about 15 to 20 gnolls at the mine, and that I had killed the ones guarding the entrance while Helge fought the ones inside. But why all these questions, I thought. He said, "Do you trust these people?" I couldn't find a reason not to, I said, and told him Yrsa had saved my life on the way to Hellas. He was thinking for a second, and then said, "No matter where you have to go, you can't fight much with that armor. Come back tomorrow afternoon. I'll have a full set of armor ready for you." "And Helge," he said and paused. "Oh, I'll tell you tomorrow. When you see the armor, you'll understand." When I walked back to meet Yrsa at Lion's Mane, I thought about what grandfather had said. Where would he get a full set of armor? And what did he want to tell me about? I guess he was gonna ask the commander or the smith, and forgot about it as I got to the Lion's Mane. As I walked in, the lady at the desk looked at me and said, "She's in the diner." So I walked there. She saw me when I came in and turned around and asked, "Have you had breakfast?" I nodded and said, "I've had breakfast at my grandmother's vegetable pie." "Great," she said. "Let's see Queenas." We walked past the market outside the Lion's Mane and down the harbor. I showed her a fishing stand at the harbor. Only Gol Rustum, a friend of my father, was there. We shared the same stand with Gol Rustum. He was busy, maybe because he was the only one to sell fish today. We hadn't walked around for long when Yrsa asked, "Do you want to get a beer?" I looked at her and said, "Yes," and smiled, and we walked straight to the Fish and Ale. We had been sitting there for a while when Rusty, a son of one of the lieutenants, came in. He saw me and walked to the table. He had always been a smart ass, but no one did anything, as his father was a lieutenant in the Queen's Guard. "Look what the cat dragged in," he said, and looked at me. He then took a step forward and touched Yrsa's hair. Before I could respond, Yrsa got up and pushed him away and knocked him down. He quickly got up, but he knocked him down again, and one more time, and then he stayed down. People laughed, and Fish, as we called the innkeeper, said, "Knocked down by a girl? Go tell that to your father," and we all laughed. Rusty got up and looked around, and then he ran out the door. "Nobody touches my hair unless I want them to," she said. We sat down again, and Fish came down with 2 beers. "Feisty girl you have there, Helga," he said. We stayed there the whole afternoon and evening, just talking and telling stories. We both really enjoyed it. I was quite drunk when I walked her back to the lion's mane, me still telling stories, and her laughing. She was also really good at telling stories, and she told about the polar bear hunting. At the end of the evening, the whole bar was sitting at our table listening to her stories about the polar bear hunting in Everfrost Peaks. When we got to the lion's mane, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "It's been a long time since I've enjoyed myself so much as today. Thank you, Helga." She turned around and walked in the lion's mane. I stood there for a minute before walking home. I felt really happy inside. What a luck I had met this wonderful woman, I thought while walking home. I didn't think much about the journey to come. I was sure that no matter where it would go, it would be great with Yrsa.